Hey YouTube, this is PokéCastXVll here, and today we'll be checking out another deck that's been doing quite well in the current metagame, and that deck is M Rayquaza. M Rayquaza has been around for a little while now and keeps coming in and out of the format and finding a way of evolving to adapt to the current metagame. So let's go into a bit of depth as to how the deck functions. Let's begin with having a look at M Rayquaza. M Rayquaza is a Mega Pokemon which is the equivalent of a Stage 1 with 220 HP, weak to lightning but resists fighting with a single retreat and one attack. Emerald Rake deals 30 damage times the number of Pokemon on your bench. When you consider that you have cards like Skyfield in the format, you could bench up to 8 Pokemon at once, and at that point there isn't too much in the format that M Rayquaza can't one-shot. Another great factor to Rayquaza is its evolution effect, which allows you to evolve Rayquaza the first turn you've played it, which means you could be hitting 240 in a single turn. Of course, Mega Evolving does pass your turn, but when you attach a Spirit Link to Rayquaza, you can override this rule. So the concept is pretty simple: to stack a load of Pokemon onto the bench, and Mega Evolve hitting 240 in a single turn, but what Pokemon best suit Rayquaza? Of course, the core of a Rayquaza deck stems from having 4 Shaymin-EXs for its setup ability, as well as drawing through more resources within your deck. Other Pokemon you can also include are things like Hoopa-EX for its ability, which helps you feed out not only your Rayquaza-EXs, but also your Shaymins too to continue drawing through your deck. Other techs you can include from there usually are all EX Pokemon, as they can all be searched out through Hoopa-EX. Since you play Mega Turbo for the energy acceleration, that also requires you to play basic energy, as Mega Rayquaza does need a single DCE and a basic energy to attack, so that then leaves you with the choice as to what kind of energy you play. There are a few routes that you can go down, such as playing Lightning Energy and using Jolteon EX, or even Metal and using Magearna EX, which gets you through things like Regice and Glaceon EX to name a few. But for the purpose of a more free-flowing deck, I'm going to be including Manaphy EX, just for the purpose of having free retreat. If you do like the effect of Magearna, but are worried about things like Glaceon EX and Regice, then perhaps you might want to consider Pokemon Ranger to get the best of both worlds. Once you have a water energy on anything with Manaphy EX on the bench, you'll then be able to move around a lot more freely, as you won't then have to pay the retreat cost through Manaphy's ability Aqua Tube. However, like all decks, there are some flaws to it. Some cards that really hinder your chances of being able to set up are Wobbuffet and Hexmaniac. While not impossible, it's very unlikely with the Wobbuffet staring you down that you're going to be able to get a full bench of 8 Pokemon with Skyfield, since you won't be able to use your Shaymin-EX's setup. However, this doesn't restrict you from Psychic Pokemon, so you can still use Scoundrel Ring. Although if your opponent does open up with a Hexmaniac, then it's going to be even more difficult, as Hexmaniac shuts off all of your abilities for a single turn. 2 more cards that can hurt you are Delinquent, as it not only knocks off your Skyfield, putting you down to 5 Pokemon, but also takes 3 more cards out of your hand. And the second is Parallel City, which again knocks off your Stadium if placed on the blue side, but more importantly, caps you at only 3 bench Pokemon tops. Normally getting out another Skyfield isn't too much of a problem, since you do normally run 4, however, the main issue that you're going to have is getting back your benched Pokemon to deal large amounts of damage once again. Some potential fixes are Dragonite EX from Evolutions, as it does allow you to recover basic Pokemon from your discard pile, and of course the other is playing a single Super Rod. And finally, with EVs becoming more popular, it's very easy to take a single Jolteon into their build, as well as some Stage 1 decks playing a 1-1 or 2-2 line of Zebstrika. While you could also include Altaria, which nullifies your weaknesses, it does become quite clunky having to get a Stage 1 Pokemon into play, even if you can evolve it in a single turn with this evolution effect. What I would say is that, generally speaking, Rayquaza is a much faster deck, so with the correct setup, you can eliminate threats such as Jolteon and Zoroark, but for consistency purposes, I wouldn't tech against them. It's debatable as to whether going first or second is better with M Rayquaza, as going first allows you the option of setting up a lot quicker, although your opponents can then counter anything you've conjured up on your turn by knocking off your Stadium and disrupting your energy with things like Enhanced Hammer, for example, although going second allows you to hit the big 240 in a single turn, but opens up the possibility of your opponents playing something like a Hexmaniac to prevent you from setting up. And with all that said, here is a list to get you started. This deck plays very little in the way of supporters, as your main draw engine is through Shaymin-EX. However, a card that I really like in this deck is Hexmaniac, as you can draw through your whole deck and then hex your opponents from setting up themselves. 4 Ultra Ball is key for your early Hooper to get you set up more efficiently, and you could even run Nest Ball if you want to improve building up a bench quicker. Other than that, the deck is relatively straightforward, and again, you could also run Pokemon Ranger, or perhaps a higher count of Lysander if you're kept at 150 damage with no Skyfield in play, but want to take a knockout on things like your opponent's Shaymin-EX. And of course, the amount of Mega Turbo can be debatable, as they are quite clunky within the deck, but I certainly wouldn't go lower than 3. Finally, another option worth considering is running Glaceon-EX as a means of tackling evolution Pokemon within the format and giving you a counter to things like EVs since you already run the water energy. And of course, if you do come up against a turn 1 Vileplume, then it can be extremely difficult as not having access to your item cards will slow you down quite significantly. And so there you pretty much have it. That is Mega Rayquaza all concluded for you. If you did like this video and you would like to see more Pokemon related content, you could also check out the annotations at the end of this video. Otherwise, you can also check me out on Facebook. I'll also leave the link in the description box below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and I will see you all next time.